Lambert. It's April 28th. This is Thursday, and it's time for the Village in Motion today. This is the Resident Council show, and we have two people from the Resident Council Finance Committee. We have Ken Cockey, who is the Council Liaison to the Finance Committee, and we have Bill McBain, who is the Finance Committee's chairman. And we're just very glad to have both of them with us this morning.
Good morning, Clint.
Good morning. How long have you guys been on the Finance Committee?
Well, I've been on it for, this is just my second year.
Okay.
I went on it last year to more or less get indoctrinated to find out what it does and how it functions. And after the first year, I did submit the form in again to be a part of it again. And lo and behold, they asked me to be chairman.
Yeah, very good. So they didn't run you away the first year, huh?
No, they went through three chairmen. I mean, during a year, there were three chairmen at that time. So I really didn't know what I was getting into.
But you've been with the committee all year so far?
Yes.
All right, very, very good. And Ken, how about you?
This is also my second year as liaison, second year on the committee and second year as liaison. I guess we've been here almost 3 years now, and after spending my first year on the dining committee, or dining committee 2, and later the combined committee, I had started up a group called the Investment Discussion Group.
Yes, right.
So apparently somebody thought somehow that I knew something about finance and suggested I might be helpful to the council. It could be that, or it could be that nobody else wanted the job. But anyway, it was suggested I might run for council with a view to being on the finance committee, yes, which I did, and it's been an interesting 2 years.
Good. So you're not angry with me for encouraging you?
No, I wouldn't say so. No, it's been a very interesting 2 years.
Very good. Oh, we're very glad to have both of you on the committee, and it sounds like both of you are very interested in what's going on with the committee. Bill, how long have you been here?
Just about a year and a half.
About a year and a half. Yeah. And what is your background?
Well, my background is basically it was industrial engineering, but I've been involved in financial matters most of my life. And so I figured, well, I'd like to keep up with it, and I wanted to see how Green Spring functions, and I've had a lot of questions about finances myself.
As we all do.
Yes. So I wanted to find out, and I joined the, signed up for the committee. And in my own business, I had my own business for a while. I was in management consulting. Oh, management consulting. Yeah, and it was pretty heavily involved with finance. Yes. So I figured, well, might as well follow where my talents are, if I have them.
Well, it's obvious that you're doing a good job, and that the committee works well under your leadership. Well,
thank you.
Yeah. Ken, you have an interesting background with finance, don't you?
Yes, I was on Wall Street for 40 years doing a number of things, although I don't particularly associate myself with anything that's happened on Wall Street since 1998. But yes, 40 years in finance, and I try to I follow the markets, and as I said before, I do run this program once a month on where we discuss the financial world. Yeah.
What day of the week is that?
That's Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month.
First Tuesday, and the time is?
It's 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm afraid. But the beauty of 9 o'clock in the morning is there's nobody ahead of me, so it's easier to set up, and there's no overflow to from the previous meeting to deal with. So 9 o'clock in the morning on the first Tuesday of the month in the Hunters Crossing classroom. Okay. Do a PowerPoint presentation. Try to pick out some of the interesting things that have happened in the financial news over the past months, and
discuss them, right?
Yeah, discuss them.
It's open to anybody and everybody?
It's open to anybody. I have an email list of some 35 to 40 people, but at any given week, with everybody having conflicts and appointments and what have you, we might have anywhere from 15, 16 to 25, 30 people sometimes. Good.
But if somebody's interested, having seen the show today,
stop in. Yeah.
Okay. In regards to it, and you publicize what you're going to be talking about that particular month, don't you?
Yes, we put up posters on the bulletin boards a few days. Like we put them up this week, I think on Tuesday, Wednesday, and we also, of course, are on advertise on Channel 8, Channel 6, and I guess that's pretty much the extent of our what you can advertise.
Okay, very good. And I'm sure you're welcome anybody.
Sure.
Okay, very good. So both of you guys have some financial background, and you're involved with the finance. What is it? What is the finance committee? What do you do?
Well, in a sense, it's like the eyes and ears of what's going on with the financial program. And it's up to us to analyze this periodically and formulate simplified information which can be distributed, and usually this is through the villager and the village bridge, yeah. And we try to just, in a simple form, provide information which is meaningful to the residents. In the past, a lot of times there were rather complicated and more, you could say more sophisticated reports, but for the general population, they really were not that interested in it, and it was just too much to absorb.
Yes.
So we've been trying to simplify that and put it in a more meaningful form for people to understand, and let us know, let them know how Green Spring is progressing.
And it's certainly much more compact, less pages, less figures to look at.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Another thing Bill has done is list the members of the community in these Village Bridge articles, so that presumably if people have questions, they can relate to somebody. There's somebody they can turn to. Yeah.
So all of your committee, anytime somebody has a question, they could ask any of your committee members?
If it relates to finance.
If it relates to finance.
There are other committees that will handle other problems or concerns of the residents.
We have lots of committees.
Yes, we do. Very good.
Yeah, I might. Bill is the chairman and runs the committee, sets the agenda for each meeting, and as liaison, my role is to report on the committee to the council, and once a month to the residents, and also to report back to the committee what I learn, if anything, from the meetings with the resident council and the resident leadership. Yeah. The council leadership.
So you're the go-between between the council and the committee. Right.
But another thing that the excuse me, the finance committee does, we also look into other things which are related to the finance and write articles about them, which would then go into the Villager and the Village Bridge.
There was a series of articles last year before last, that the committee did. Really very informative for everyone and in a simple language. And so you're going to be doing more of that this year?
Yes, yes.
Okay, very good.
That's one of our aims, and one of them that we've been, well, there's already been several published things on it that has to do with the scholarship fund. Right. And from my viewpoint, I look at it as a scholarship program because it involves multiple funds. Right. And there needs to be further explanation about those funds.
Okay. Where do you get your information? Where does the committee get its information to transmit to the residents?
Research and contact.
Well, we do get at each meeting we get monthly reports through the finance director. I guess we should mention that at each committee meeting, the finance director plays a part in it with the finance committee, and sometimes his analyst Greg Zernhelt. And also Roy O'Connor, the resident director to the board of directors,
right.
he also sits in our meetings. But Justin Reeves, the finance director, does provide us before each meeting with the summary report, draft report of Green Springs finances for the previous month and year to date. So.
Okay.
Well, Justin is really the key element because all the financial things come from corporate to him. And what we've requested that he simplify some of it. Like one time he sent us the new Vanguard report. It was 60 pages long. I said, well, we don't need to go through that. This is what we need.
Right.
Can you provide this for us? And he's been very cooperative. He's been doing this. So he is the main point of contact for overall financial information.
Right.
Yes. Then if we want other things, then we'll go to the respective department that might have information that we can use.
Yeah.
And Justin Reeves is the finance director.
Correct.
Yes.
He's been with us for...
a little bit over a year, just about a year, I would say. Well, he's been with us a little bit longer. He's been finance director, I think, for about a year when Berwick was officially, transferred to Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a meeting with him just this week. I spent, pretty near an hour with him, going over a lot of the concerns and things that we'd like to get resolved. And he's extremely cooperative.
Tremendous. Very, very good. And you meet regularly with him, right?
Well, at the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
But if I need more information, it's either by email or I set up an appointment to meet with him, which is what I did this week.
Right. Okay. And if a resident has a concern about finance, they can call and make an appointment with the finance department with Justin or Greg, or
yes, of course there are issues with billing and issues with people that leaving independent living or transferring to assisted. Those questions, of course, there are lots of those questions are handled professionally by the finance department. We're not involved.
Okay. I hope everybody knows where the finance department is.
Town Center.
Yes, it's off the lobby of Town Center on the first floor, opposite the administration office, and next to the coffee machine.
There you go. And that's the identifying mark.
Right.
Very good. In your meetings with the finance committee, what do you do? I mean, how do you go about doing things? I mean, here's all the information that Justin gives you. What do you do with it?
Well, first of all, I write the agenda as to what we're going to discuss at that meeting. And there's time allocated for different people. And I'll start off because normally, sometimes we'll have a visitor from another department, which we've twice this year. I always begin it with allowing them to have the first talk first, say, before we go into our meeting. Okay. Because our meeting is more detailed. And then usually, if Roy O'Connor is available, then I put him on second because he has other meetings to go to too. And he requested that, yes, he'd like to continue meeting with us if he can.
Tremendous.
So we do that. Then comes Ken with his liaison report, and then comes Justin, and then he provides us with the runoffs and the detailed information. We then go through that, analyze it, and is there anything that we need to do now, or at what point in time do we take some action? Okay. And then, of course, we any new business, any old business, and the usual agenda type thing.
And your meeting usually runs an hour and a half?
It goes from 10 o'clock on the second Monday until noontime.
Oh, okay, so 2 hours.
Yes.
Okay. Third Monday.
Third Monday.
Third Monday?
Yeah.
Third Monday, and you meet where?
At the finance office conference room.
Oh, okay. The conference room right next
conference room next to the finance office, executive conference room.
Next to the coffee machine.
Which only has about, what, 8 chairs, 9
Something
chairs?
So
that's why our committee is limited to 7 members.
Yes.
Right.
And it has always been limited to 7 members, by the way. I mean, because of the size of the meeting space that you guys use.
Well, actually, I don't think you want to have too many people. Things can get then overly complicated, and you get into micromanaging and whatnot, and you don't want that.
Yeah. You mentioned that. in regards to not having too many people involved and trying to make things simpler in that type of situation. What do you guys really, how do you analyze, a financial report? I have no idea.
Well, we, generally speaking, as the reports are presented to us, the numbers come in, basically, there are two comparisons. One, we have a comparison against budget, the budget that management is working with. And we try also to look at a comparison with the previous period. Because when we report, I think it's more meaningful, more intuitive to the residents to see how we did in first quarter this year versus first quarter last year. Right. I don't think budget means a lot. Means a lot to them. So basically, we go through this with Justin, and we look. We're not as precise or as disciplined as some might be if we were worried about the place and looking at ratios, but we get a general idea. We have a cash position, for instance, that's so beyond what our lenders require that it's not something that you have to worry about. So we look at some of the ratios, a number of days cash and current ratio maybe, and see how some of the activities are doing versus what they're expected to do. Go through this adjustment, get explanations as to why things are off or one way or the other.
Do you then make recommendations to Justin or to the exec?
There isn't. I don't think there's a lot of room for us to make recommendations. Basically, what we're trying to do, I think, is explain. Well, in my case, to the council in particular, and for Bill and the committee in total, to report these numbers to the residents in a way that they can make some sense out of them and will feel comfortable with the way the place is run.
And last year, personal experience being on the council, you did a very nice job of explaining things to us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When he says we show comparisons, well, we did so far this year. We compared 015 with 014, and which showed that there was, progress is always progress.
Right.
But basically, is to well, let me go back and say budgets. Budgets are just a guideline. They're just estimates.
Right.
And so they can be listed hard and fast, but it doesn't mean you keep to them.
Right.
You can have unusual occurrences and things that require. But overall, in talking with Justin, we find that financially we're in good shape. And that if there was no income to Green Spring, they have enough reserves and financial stability to last for 2 years. Without another penny coming in.
So that's good news for all of us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
When you are doing that and you compare that the years and you look at what they're able to do with the amount of money that we currently have in the bank, I'd say, are there? What I really want to ask is, does the finance department, are they able to tell you what's going to be done with that money, that extra money? I mean, if there's anything over the 2-year period?
Well, Green Spring runs. It's called various things. It's called, I think, on the audited statements, I think it's called a reserve fund. I forget exactly what it is. But we have something like $130 million reserve fund, which is the board allocates. You can see it in the annual report, the official annual report, which should be available in May. It's allocated to things like emergency spending, or repositioning capital improvements. So it's there. I say it's loosely allocated. It's not a legal responsibility. It's not that they have to follow, but it's a guideline. So it's invested. For the bulk of the money is invested through now through Vanguard. In November of last year, they changed money managers. They went from New England Pension to Vanguard funds. So at the moment, it's in a number of Vanguard funds, which works out to roughly 60% equity, I think, and 40% debt.
Yeah, correct.
So that's where it is, and that particular manager started in November, so we no longer have an ongoing rate of return to look at. We're starting anew with a new manager from his date, his beginning date of November 1.
Okay.
So it'll be a while before we have a 5-year return.
Yes.
That transition period has been a little bit of a problem for us because we cannot get consistent information. And as we get a little more history behind it, then we'll be in a better position to give more meaningful information out.
Because with the transition, I would assume we still had money in both places at one time, right?
Correct.
Well, most of the money's moved over. There's a little money that I think remains to move over this year, but yeah, substantially all the money's come over from the New England pension side to Vanguard.
You mentioned the fact that there's this reserve fund, and I think that actually is the title, is reserve fund. In case of an emergency, that would be where we would go.
Well, I think they define emergency as something along the lines of, a tornado or maybe an earthquake, and where they have, sudden, unexpected, unanticipated, large expenses. So it would be available for that.
Okay.
It also could come into play if there's unusual expense in certain areas, departments, things like that, where all of a sudden there was a need for some money.
Such as the floods that we've had.
Yes.
With the leaky pipes, broken pipes.
Right, those aren't budgeted.
Those aren't budgeted. But it's nice that we're getting them taken care of.
Correct.
Hopefully this time for good.
Yes.
In regards to it. Justin comes to your meetings, and then Craig is the...
Well, I think his title is Financial Analyst.
Okay. And he sits next to Justin as far as office space. And so he's the one that really analyzes when the budget comes in or when the board says, this needs to be done or that needs to be done or consider this or that.
Actually, that's his title. What Greg does, I'm not exactly sure. I think he's really a jack of all trades in the finance when it comes down to the finance department. I think he deals with with resident complaints and all kinds of things. For our purposes, Justin does the analysis and explains the exceptions or things that don't look right or
Okay.
Yeah, Justin's the main analyst on it. He's got a very good hand on it. He knows exactly what's going on.
Right.
He's the one who does all the explaining to us. Greg sits in the meetings because he's relatively new to it, and it gives him a chance to become acclimated as to what we are doing and what information we need.
Great. Very good. We've been talking about the committee. We know there's 7 people on the committee. 2 of you are there. Who are the other 5?
Well, let's see. Try to go alphabetically. We have Joanne Field, Don Koss, Jack Nelson, Bill McBrain, Fred Griffin I left out alphabetically, and Pete Straub. Is that 5?
Yes, it's actually more than 5.
Yeah. Joanne.
Well, it's supposed to be 7.
Joanne Field is our secretary.
She's the secretary.
She keeps the minutes.
Right. Right. When and they all work hard. I have no doubts. Hard work.
Well, it's a lot of material too.
Right. To consume and be able to articulate.
Well, this year there were 4. 4 of the members are new. So there's a learning process to go on.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Anything special we haven't talked about that you need to share about the committee or would like to share about the committee and the work that you guys do?
One thing we talked last year about as one of our goals this year as a project to look at the vision statement produced by Jackson Bain's Vision Committee for the Board of Directors, and we haven't really dug our heels into that, but I guess it's still on the back burner, which would be kind of a bigger project, looking at some of the longer-term trends and how they affect the finances, the demographics, the economic trends, trend of savings, that kind of thing. and maybe report that do a report for the residents.
Oh, that'd be great.
Well, also this year there were the group meetings for residents with the different departments. Finance had 2 of them. Well, I think each one of them had two meetings for residents to speak out. So those responses were being analyzed, and ones that really needed explanation, and that's what we've been working on too.
Very good. Committee's active. Committee is supportive of everything that goes on. Yes.
We try to be.
Yes.
Yeah, we have an active committee who are involved in the community. I think most people have are involved and are paying attention and are serious about being on the committee.
Very good. Very good. Well, we greatly appreciate both of you coming today. It's been wonderful having you.
It's been fun.
We hope you stay on the committee for as long as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's been fun.
It's been fun.
You're always welcome to come back anytime and share information with us. One question I didn't ask you, Ken, personal question. You spent 40 years on Wall Street.
Yes.
Do you have any tips?
Oh. Yeah, be careful. And don't believe everything you hear.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, we're glad to have you. Thanks so very much for sharing this morning.
Thank you, Clint.
Okay. Folks, don't go away.